and welcome to TERRA's Third Thursday video podcast for the month of July 2025. Today, we will be having another strategic discussion designed to help your organization maximize your e-scrap and ITAD operations. I am your co-host, Stephen Napoli, president of TERRA, the Electronics Reuse and Recycling Alliance. For our regular customers of these sessions, you know that we strive to be brief and to the point, while providing you with useful information to enhance your knowledge, operations, and bottom line. As a reminder, all of our previous content is available on our website, jointerra.org. But quickly, before we get started, we would like to acknowledge our new and returning members since our last session. These include Green Tech Solutions, Elite Recycling, DMD, EPC, S3 Recycling Solutions, SDS Logistics, and Supply Chain Services, SSI, a new member. Today, I am very pleased to welcome David Watson. David is an avid networker and relationship builder with a passion for connecting professionals in the e-scrap and ITAD industry, as well as the circular and reverse logistics value chains. You'll be able to see him in person here in a couple of weeks at the ITAD Summit in Las Vegas. He's also a serial entrepreneur, and he's started companies like RL People, who he's representing today, as well as RL Equity and Circular Connect. I know you will find value listening to today's podcast, People Power, Gaining a Competitive Edge through Recruitment. Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of TERRA's Third Thursday podcast. My co-host, my guest host this month, is David Watson with RL People. So I'm going to introduce him, allow him to talk a little bit about himself and his company.
Good. So my name's David Watson. I'm managing director of RL People and founding partner of RL Equity. RL People was founded back in late 2016. I joined in middle 2017 as employee number 2. And we were founded specifically to provide recruitment and executive search solutions into the reverse logistics markets. And we look at the entire reverse value chain. So everything from asset recovery through to repair and refurbishment, recycling, and then the whole resale, e-commerce markets. Over the years, we've found that the ITAD and electronics waste and electronics recycling markets are big business for us, primarily because there's so much consumer electronics commodity out there in the market. So we've seen consistent demand for our services since launching in 2017. And we support organizations globally. So our global headquarters are in Market Harborough, Leicestershire, which is in England. But we also have a guy working for us out of Austin, Texas. So we have an official location in the US, and anywhere between 60 and 65% of our global revenue now comes out of the American markets, primarily North America. So it's a geography that serves us well. It's where we see a lot of our demand for good industry people. So that's RL People. Fast forward to 2024, and we launched RL Equity, which is a business broker / M&A advisory firm, again, dedicated to servicing our core markets, which is reverse logistics, circular supply chain, IT asset disposition, e-waste, e-recycling, the list goes on and on. And a lot of people ask me why we moved or why we launched this alongside the recruiting business. And there's a couple of reasons. We started seeing the increasing level of interest within these markets from institutional investors. Private equity were asking questions, venture capitalists were asking questions. They were deploying capital at increasing volumes. So that made us think. And we just kept getting asked. We would be speaking with executives and owners within these firms, be saying, yeah, we could hire 3 or 4 guys through RL People, or we could go and acquire a business. Who is for sale? What's the best approach? How do we approach these key stakeholders? So we decided to commercialize it. We decided to turn it into a formal offering, and so far so good. We're supporting a good number of organizations now on both the buy side and the sell side, and we just want to sit in the middle and make good connections between organizations and drive some M&A activity across the next couple of years.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. We talk about a lot on this podcast, kind of things that are operational, a lot of, more hardware kind of, questions. What are battery best practices? But when you kind of get into the nuts and bolts of this industry, it's a people business.
Yeah.
You have owners, you have C-suite folks that are looking for help. They're trying to expand their business. Maybe they're trying to acquire a new business. And location is important, right? Maybe they want to expand based geography, but they're also looking at the people that are in those, organizations that who they're going to be acquiring. Or at some point when they're looking to, sell off and go into the sunset, that they have, you know, a business in place, the people in place that are going to make the transition to the next owner seamless. So I think this is a very timely conversation. So much of this has kind of come together in the last couple of years since eStewards went through eStewards V4 and R2 V3. Kind of the table is set now of kind of what the ITAD and e-scrap industry kind of looks like from a certified perspective. And those folks that have those certifications, that has businesses, they have gone through that process, whose facilities have been audited, they're kind of sitting in the catbird seat, because now that the cost of entry is more expensive, so acquiring somebody makes more sense. But they want to make sure that again, if they're looking to grow, they have the right people, and if they're looking to to exit, that the right people are there also to make that transition happen. So thank you for being our host today. So I want to ask you, let's just kind of get into it in terms of I'm an owner, and I'm looking at strategies to grow my business. And I've been in the past wearing all the hats. I've been the marketing guy, I've been the sales guy, I'm the CEO. What can an organization like yours do to help me?
It's a great question, and I've been through it, and a lot of individuals that I speak with have been through the process of having to move away from being the doer of everything, and protecting everything, to entrusting other individuals, to start owning certain operations or certain key business streams. Um, what I would recommend is if you feel like you're at that tipping point, come and talk to us. We consult with organizations of all shapes and sizes globally. We look at your current structure, we look at your current people, and we would work with you to find gaps, and find areas that need further optimization, and help you to find that optimization. And sometimes it's as simple as bringing someone from externally into the fold. And that's when we can engage our network of thousands upon thousands of industry professionals who are considering new challenges.
Hmm.
I've always said this, but people are true enablers of operational excellence, change, and business growth. And if you want to really drive growth for your business, sometimes you just have to lose a little bit of control, entrust someone else, and allow them to propel you to that next level.
Yeah, I think that's key. Some organizations are so used to doing it a certain way
Mhm.
that the idea of fresh ideas coming in sometimes are rejected, but that's often what you need if you need some new blood and some new energy into an organization to help it grow. So for your experience thus far, I mean, where do you find the most challenges in terms of bringing folks on? Is it in the operations? Is it in sales? Is it in marketing? Is it C-suite folks? Where is because this is a pretty unique business. Not too many people just off the street can walk into it and start having success immediately. You have to know a little bit about it. So, where are you finding where people are having the most struggles?
There's a differentiation here between talent attraction and talent onboarding, and I'll just dive a bit deeper into that. Finding the industry professionals isn't particularly difficult for us because we've been doing this since 2017, and we built the networks. What our customers struggle with is attracting good people into their organization.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is you have to define your proposition, You have to refine your proposition, and you have to make sure that everyone internally is aligned with what that proposition is before you go to market and start trying to engage with said industry professionals. Um, the electronics recycling, e-waste, and ITAD markets, they are extraordinarily competitive, both from a business-to-business services standpoint and
Mhm.
also from a recruitment standpoint, is where we see the highest volume of our requests for people. But a lot of ITAD organizations, they neglect what their brand is, they neglect what their story is, and they subsequently don't necessarily portray that to the candidate market in the right way. To ensure that you are consistently able to attract and subsequently hire good people, you have to make sure that your organizational perception externally is as strong as possible. We call it WIFT here, which is what's in it for them. It's not as
Hmm.
easy as putting an advert on LinkedIn or Indeed anymore and having 20 perfect applicants apply and then you can pick your favorite one. You have to sell your proposition in this industry more than any other. And if you're struggling to sell your proposition, then come and chat with an external provider, come and chat with our people because we can help to extract the good stuff out of your organization. If it's certifications, if it's how long you've been in industry, if it's news releases, press releases, prospective candidates want to know about this sort of thing. So I would say that is one of the biggest challenges within this industry is just getting that story out there consistently to attract the right people. The rest of it, once you found the right people, it sort of falls into place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the reasons, honestly, Terra was created for a similar but a little bit different reason is that this industry had done a very poor job of merchandising itself. You know,
Yes,
it's paper, plastic, glass. Who's talking? No one was talking about electronics and the electronics recycling, and it's the second fastest growing or the fastest growing, waste stream in the world. It's good, 70% of the toxins entering the waste stream are coming from it. It's just kind of always been on the back burner. And a lot of our members, a lot of folks that are out there in this business, owners, really haven't developed their brand, really haven't developed their story. And if they want to if they want to grow, they've got to have those brand assets in place. That's going to help them recruit the right people. That's going to help them grow. So, I'm going to be talking a little bit about this in here in a couple of months at eScrap. I'll be hosting a session on marketing 101, which is going to be about helping, companies start the process of really kind of building and invigorating their brand. But that's
mm,
going to be, a critical element to bringing in the type of people and encourage, exciting the type of people to come into your organization to help you grow.
100%. And the industry's at a tipping point. I mean, everyone now knows and uses the phrase the circular economy, and for all of the right reasons. This industry in particular is starting to accelerate away from the dirty end of the supply chain afterthought to the proactive systemic change, changing the world that we live in industry. Now that is hyperbole, but
Hmm.
it's we can find the balance between the two. If you can land in the middle and sell your opportunity, sell your job opportunity as coming on board and supporting the mission with accelerating electronic circularity or accelerating business sustainability, people are going to be interested, especially the younger generation as well. There is only a finite number of individuals within this space. So we have to all rally together to attract individuals at the beginning of their career into these markets. Otherwise, we're just going to run out of resource. So
Yes.
really leaning into circularity, sustainability, not greenwashing, because this ultimately is empowering circularity, so it's valid,
Hmm.
but leaning into that, having that in your marketing, having that in your job adverts, making sure that it's ingrained in business strategy and business culture, you're onto a winner.
Yeah, absolutely. 'Cause that's what customers are looking for, right? They
Exactly.
want that. I mean, they're going to a certified recycler or they're getting these systems in place. They're working with a particular brand company because it has a positive benefit to them. There are some, I mean, especially here in the States, it's the Wild West. 25 states have, no laws whatsoever for e-waste. You could throw it in the trash, nobody cares. They don't
Mhm.
have to recycle it, but if they, or they don't have to reuse it. But if they do, those brands are feeling the benefit of it, and they want to work with companies that have the same ethos. And so for bringing in potential employees, if you're not positioned to be able to win that kind of business, you're going to be in a commodity race. And all you're going to be doing is trying to get volume for a few pennies a pound. And that business model, is always going to exist to a certain extent, but that's not something that is a recipe for growth.
There's diminishing returns. I mean, we see a lot of our customers are proactively moving away from transaction volume-based relationships to service-based relationships. You've got contracts in place, there's recurring revenue, there's X amount of years within the contract, and you're a genuine value-adding service provider. And that's not going to slow down anytime soon.
No, and that's a sophisticated operational, plan. That's a sophisticated sales plan. That's a sophisticated marketing plan. That's an idea for growth, over a course of years, and that takes the right people to get it done.
100%. Yeah, you need the right people on board to help to accelerate away from that transactional model to that service-based model. Yeah, we're in the thick of making that happen.
So then what are some of the best practices for somebody to follow to make sure that, they are doing the things that they need to do to be as successful at recruiting new employees?
Communication. And it sounds overly simplified, but communication is the root of all issues in recruiting. And what I mean by that is a lack of. If you are going out to market to hire someone, either via your own channels or leveraging a recruiting partner like RL People, you have to be committed to the process. And it takes time.
Hmm.
We spend all of our time recruiting for our customers, and our customers leverage us because we save them a significant amount of time. But there are still interview expectations, there's still feedback expectations. So communication is key to ensuring that you're a good external recruiting organization. If you don't communicate in the right way, then it's brutal, but good people will end up at your competitors, who are prioritizing good communication. That is how competitive this industry currently is. So communication and commitment to process, 100%. As I said a bit earlier, a really, really important aspect to all of this is making sure that you put the effort into defining what the role is before you do anything. So
Hmm.
defining internally and then ensuring alignment with your fellow peers, your colleagues, your C-suite, whatever it may be. There is nothing worse than someone entering a recruitment process, having a really, really good first stage interview with X stakeholder. They then go to speak with Y stakeholder, and their views are completely misaligned on what the opportunity is. There is nothing that puts someone off of an organization quicker than apparent misalignment internally.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to summarize, good communication, good commitment to process, and ensuring before you initiate anything that everyone knows what's needed.
So as you're kind of developing that and putting together a package or, a description of a position, do you work with, with your clients on, developing, what are the KPIs for this particular, role? What does a commission structure might look like for a sales or a sales director, versus an associate? Are you getting into those kind of granular details with your folks?
Yeah, with certain customers. So we operate a couple of commercial models. One is the sort of the premium model, the retained model. And within that, we work on benchmarking, we work on proposition developments. We will look at a job description, we will amend or create a job description. We will recommend bonus schemes based on information from the wider industry to ensure that you're competitive in relation to your competitors. We will then manage the entire end-to-end process, from talent acquisition through to interviewing and then through to onboarding. So it's a service we love to offer, because it allows for us to really get stuck into business strategy and support with true value adds. Some organizations don't want that. Some organizations, a bit like ITAD, are just more transactional, just go and get me the person who can do X, Y, and Z. And that's
Hmm.
fine. But we also strive to have more of the service-based partnerships in place. So transactional, it will always have its place in the
Right.
recruiting game, but true value adding recruiting partner is where we want to be.
And this is a bit of a specific question, but it's come across a couple of times because a lot of the folks that are in this industry started out as just metal scrap yards and started to have clients asking them about, hey, can you take my electronics too? So we've got several members that are kind of in that boat, and like the metal side of the business has like a completely different type of benefits and bonus structure, and they're having difficulty finding a ways to make a unique proposition and bonus structure for the folks on the electronic side. Have you come across any kind of weird scenarios like that in your experience?
Yeah, we have, and it usually dictates the need for different bonus schemes linked to different commodities and different areas of focus, which is far from ideal, but sometimes it's essential in those sort of transitory type environments. So it does happen, and what I would recommend in that environment is just be open and honest with potential employees that we are looking to transition from a transactional to a service-based revenue model. During that period, there are different compensation schemes linked to different channels. And if they're backing that, then they'll help you to achieve your goals. Metals recycling is interesting. We have a good number of customers that are heavily involved in metal commodity recycling, but also want to become, I guess, more not necessarily ITAD focused because that's not the right phrase, but certainly value adding, service focused, and
Right.
it's not an easy transition to execute.
No, it is not. Um, so let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned, early on, and it's come up a once or twice here about, mergers and acquisitions and, having the right people in place for that. Tell us a little bit about, some of the best practices in that areas and, some places that you can help folks get prepared for, either buying or selling.
Perfect. So people during an acquisition process, um, people are one of your greatest assets. Um, and if you're lacking the right people to support your business goals or support an acquirer's long-term intention with your organization, they're going to be pretty they're going to be put off pretty quickly. So a lot of due diligence processes are focused on structure charts, reporting, employee tenure, culture, all of that sort of good stuff. So
Hmm.
your best practice is to ensure that all of your ducks are in a row before you initiate an M&A process. We support a lot on the sales side. So we speak with owners of organizations who are looking to enhance the value of their organization in advance of being acquired. We also facilitate introductions to potential acquirers. But the first sort of 30 days of a relationship, we're really digging into who is where. You obviously have all of the financial stuff as well, top line, bottom line, EBITDA, and so on and so
Hmm.
forth. But who sits where? Who is adding value? Is there too much reliance on one particular individual within your organization? What would happen if they were to leave? These are the sort of questions that you have to be prepared to answer, either because we're asking the questions, or a private equity firm is asking the questions, or another organization within industry is asking the questions. So best practice to ensure strong valuations and ensure a seamless process. Make sure that the people within your organization are as good as they can be. Make sure that they're empowered. Make sure that you have no glaring gaps in your structure chart. If you have an ops excellence leader, make sure that your potential acquirer knows about that. Make sure your sales team are firing on all cylinders. People are your greatest assets and they need to feel empowered. So getting that right, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months in advance of initiating an M&A process is going to make it a lot easier for you.
Hmm. Interesting. The one word I did not hear in your response was the word location. I
Mm.
hear so much people saying to me, hey, I'm looking for a place in the Southeast or I'm looking for a place here. Um, if they're the wrong culture, if you're just buying a building, why? right?
Mhm.
I think it's a little bit potentially short-sighted, but to not to look at something and just in terms of its physical location, not its true assets. So, again, for those that are out there, on the acquisition side, really dig in there and understand the people that you're acquiring more than the location that you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the next layer down from that is obviously true capabilities within that particular facility. Certifications is incredibly important,
Hmm.
but then also how that all fits into local state legislation. Um, each state differs ultimately,
Yeah,
and
they do.
yeah, which is that's a different discussion point entirely.
Uh-huh.
But ensuring alignment with that local legislation is critical, and we see it. A lot of organizations within this industry are striving for geographic expansion. That's what's driving the acquisition activity, either domestically or internationally. But there's been many a time where these organizations have jumped two-footed into a transaction without understanding that intricately, and that can cause a whole host of issues.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going from Tennessee and you want to acquire a facility that has an employer, a manufacturer's program in place, and you've never operated one, there's going to be a big learning curve.
Oh yeah,
Um, Especially, and then if you just were specific about I wanted something in that state, and maybe somebody with a better that was a better fit because they had more of a culture like yours was one state over, was that extra 200 miles really worth it?
exactly, exactly.
So anything else you'd like to share with, with our listeners on, on people and how important they are to an organization, or, what they need to do to make sure that today their people are aligned, and how, if they're not where they want them to be, how are they going to get them to where they need them to be?
Yeah, I'll use this opportunity just to summarize everything, Stephen. So, I mean, we are firmly of the view that people are one of the greatest assets to an organization. Good people drive business growth. People are true enablers of operational excellence, change, and expansion. Um, in the same vein, bad people are the opposite. So
Hmm.
my recommendation to business leaders, owners, executives is look at your organization holistically, assess and ask yourself this question: do you have the right people in place to achieve your short-term and long-term goals? If you don't, then first of all, come and speak to us. But
Yeah.
secondly, have a just think about how you can change that, because it's not always as complicated as it may seem. Again, we we are here to support with growth. We're here to support with change. We want to propel this industry to new heights by making proactive introductions, introducing good people into good organizations. So
Hmm.
if you have a gap in that structure chart, if you have someone who you need to be performing at a better level, we're absolutely here to help. We travel a lot. We go to most of the major conferences. We've got ITAD Summit coming up in a couple of weeks' time in rather hot Vegas for July. All of the other conferences taking place in the US, Europe, and the UK. We do plan to attend this year. So if anyone's listening to this and wants to sync up in person and have a deeper chat about recruiting, M&A, how people can help you to achieve your goals, and please let me know.
All right. Will you be exhibiting at the ITAD Summit, or are you just going to be attending?
We're not going to exhibit, no, primarily because not everyone wants to be seen speaking to the recruiters.
That makes perfect sense.
I may as well tell the truth. From an M&A RL equity angle, it's an ongoing consideration. We're now basically 1.5 years into RL equity. We wanted to test its viability for 12 months. We have paying customers. We're comfortable that it is a true market value adder. So I don't think we'll exhibit at all this year, but do keep an eye out for some RL equity signage next.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense for people to get to know you guys because even if somebody has a perfect organization or believes that they do, people run into they win the lottery, they get they get inheritances and they retire early, or they have children they and decide to want to be stay-at-home parents. You've got to be prepared for the unknown, and
Yeah.
having some people that you can trust in your hip pocket to be able to reach out to when you have an employee issue. It's great to have you in in their Rolodex. So I'll encourage everyone to find you all and your upcoming shows. So, thanks, David. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Stephen. Bye bye.